Hello and welcome to this episode of Trash to Track. Now, in this episode, we're going to be looking at this Lima Class 73 Broadlands in its Royal Train livery. That's what the orange dots on the roof denote, so that anybody from the air could see the loco in real life. And you'll see this loco has been modified with extra pickups on the trailing bogie. But when I give it a track test, there is no life in this model whatsoever. So I line it up on the track, put the battery on, and nothing. The model's not even humming. So there's something obviously wrong inside of it. So let's open it up and see what we can do. Now, to open up a Lima 73, there are two body side clips on each side, and they clip underneath both the cabs. So just using a small flat bladed screwdriver, I undo the body shell, and to my absolute surprise, this model is not only DCC fitted, which I didn't know about, but it's also got a CD replacement, or not necessarily a CD drive, but a replacement motor in it. And I believe that there is a stay alive capacitor as well. I had no idea that that was fitted. All I did was I bought this as a non-running loco with the idea of featuring it on Trash to Track, and now I found that it's DCC fitted and has been upgraded with a motor. So we'll have to try and get that motor out of there, because obviously something's not right. Either this decoder is not supporting DC running, or it has burnt out. Now, removing it off the black tack, none of the plastic shrink wrap has burnt, so hopefully it's not burnt out, and we can restore it to running order, although there is a lot of built up gunk and grease on the gear train there. So I'm going to remove the motor. Now, to do that, you have to undo the two screws that secure the bogie side frames in place, and then the motor unit will lift out from the top. So I'll just undo these two screws here like so, as you've seen me do on Lima models before, and then the motor bogie just lifts out like that, and everything is connected. So I'm going to have to try and test this motor, but I don't want to put DC power directly to it, because it will feed back and probably destroy that decoder if it's not already broken. And that congealed oil and grease on the gear train is making the gear train rather stiff to turn, so I'm going to clean all that off and give it some fresh lubrication. Just looking at the body shell of a Lima 73, these really are good models considering their age. The detail on the grills especially is very, very good. And they look like a 73, and they are worth buying. They are quite good models considering their age. So I'm going to desolder the wires, and I've got now the motor on its own, and I'm going to put the wires direct to the battery, and the motor fires into life, and it's very, very powerful actually. So the motor is not burnt out or anything, and this model now has a fighting chance of running again. So to remove the gears on the gear train, you have to undo these two hex nuts. Now, my hex nuts drivers are a little too small for this. I'll have to get some different ones, but I just undo it by using my needle nose pliers, just to turn the hex nut a few times, and then I can unscrew it with my fingers. And then most of the drivetrain will come away from the motor. Now, the two big cogs will, but to remove the two smaller cogs that make contact with the gears on the wheels, you'd have to take the wheels out, and I'm not going to do that in this rebuild. But removing these two main gears off each side, it becomes apparent just how much dirt is on this model. There is a hell of a lot of congealed oil and grease, and there's also a lot of fluff and hair wrapped around the gear spindles, so this model has seen a fair bit of use in the past. And also, looking at the model, because this model has got those stupidly small buffers on it, I know that this model dates from one of the early days of Lima, from the early to mid 1980s, although obviously the motor is nowhere near that old. So just using these tweezers here to remove all that hair and grime that's on there, and again cotton bud and methylated spirits to remove the rest of the grease. I'm then going to undo that other hex nut and do the same on the other side of the motor. But the main drive cogs themselves, because they are so dirty and there's a lot of tack in all the gear teeth, I'm actually going to put them on some blue roll and then give them a squirt with this contact cleaner, WD-40 contact cleaner, and then use my old manky toothbrush to clean all of the gear teeth and get all of that congealed mess out of there, because any of that mess will, in the gear teeth, it will cause friction, and it causes excess motor, excess motor wear, because it's trying to turn something that should be clean, but it's actually clogged up with this crap. So once they've all been cleaned, there is a big difference. Once they're all cleaned and dry, I add some fresh lubrication onto the gear spindles with this Labelle 106. Just a little tiny bit on the gear spindles there, and then rebuild the gear train. I also put a very, very tiny amount on the gears themselves, so that there's no excess wear on the gears when this model is running. So you don't need much, just a little bit. I am running out of this in this tube. I'm going to have to go and get some more. There we go, just a tiny spot on each bit. The gear train is then rebuilt, and that hex nut again is put back in initially with finger pressure just to tighten it up a little bit, and then I tighten it fully home with the pliers again. So there we go, I'm just tightening that up. And then the left hand gear train was rebuilt in exactly the same way. I'm just tightening this up, just holding it there and tightening it up. Now once that's done, I'm going to connect the motor to the battery again to get it spinning, because the wheels on this motor bogie are fairly dirty, and it's only at this point that I realised that whoever converted this in the past has removed the pickups from this bogie entirely, which I think is a very short-sighted thing to do, because now the model is reliant on that very short wheelbase non-powered bogie to pick up track collection. Now that's all well and good if that stay alive works, but I'm not even sure at the moment if the DCC decoder works. So I might look in the future at reinstating some sort of pickup on this power bogie, and if I do, I'll try and put it in a future video. The model is also missing both of its traction tyres. Now I know some people remove the traction tyres on Lima models. I personally don't, because it does lead to some lumpy running, because the traction tired wheel has got a groove on it. But now I've given the wheels, while they're spinning, I've cleaned them with a fiberglass pencil, and now I'm just giving them a going over with the cotton bud and meths, and you can see there just how much dirt is coming off them. So to replace the traction tyres, my local shop, Trains For You, actually sell Lima traction tyres as a spare part. These are the Lima small ones, and these should fit this model. Now they may look a bit strange being flat washer-like pieces of rubber, but when you put them on the wheel, hold it in place with one thumb and then just over the wheel it goes, a couple of seconds, and the traction tyre is in place, fits lovely, and that has replaced that, and will make this model hopefully haul a lot, and it will stop any uneven running with the wheels trying to grip on that on the rail with a gap in the wheel. It's never good trying to see a model running without traction tyres when it should have them. So now that's been fully serviced as much as I can, I've resoldered the wires back to where they were, and I'm going to refit the motor bogie back into the chassis when I can get it to clip in. It's very tight. And then once that's in place, the bogie frame is refixed with the two screws that we undid earlier on. So it was quite a surprise doing this. I was expecting the old Lima motor, cleaning commutators and that, but just goes to show you never do know sometimes what you're buying. Now the non-driving bogie with these pickups, this was given a clean with a cotton bud and mess thoroughly, just to remove the slight build-up of dirt, because there did seem to be quite a little bit in the crevices near the wheel flanges, and I just want to make sure that all those brass pickups are pressing on the wheel backs correctly, because this is quite a short wheelbase for such a big diesel, or electro-diesel should it be. So then I get my multimeter and just make sure that each pickup is collecting current, and the bleep sound tells me that current's getting through, and all four of those brass wiper pickups are collecting power just as they should, and also that there's no short circuit across that pickup thing. Now as I said, I'm going to replace these buffers because them stupidly small ones annoy me. No 73 ever had buffers that small, so why Lima thought it was a good idea. In later models they did rectify them, But in these early models, they've got these stupid buffers on, and these unfortunately have been glued into place because they should pull out, but they don't. So I break each buffer off very carefully using a pair of serrated pliers, drill the hole up to 0.8mm, and then I've refit these brass buffers that were just about the right size. Now they're not actually class 73 buffers because the buffer shanks are chamfered, but they look okay for now. And because the model is in Royal Train livery with those spots on the roof, I've painted the buffers silver, touched the buffer shanks in red, and I also put the grease mark on the buffers. Now how I do that is I get a cotton bud, some weathered black. Now just add some on the end of a cotton bud and then just press it into the centre of the buffer. This will leave an uneven black mark that looks like buffing grease from where the loco has been hauling trains. Now I don't think that looks too bad. Some may disagree, but that is the way I do it with this sort of thing. So now that rebuild is virtually complete. Now the footage of me putting the buffers on was lost, but it was basically me drilling out the holes and super gluing buffers in. So not exactly the most exciting of footage. So the next thing to do now is to put the body shell back on. Now this does go on a certain way. There is the representation of a compressor on the chassis, and that goes the same end as the vertical grille. And then the body shell is clipped back in place, and some encouragement with that front clip. And then it clips in place, the new buffers are on. And as I said earlier, for its age, the Lima 73 really is not a bad model, and it lends itself to detailing projects and motor upgrades as we've seen here. And that was a genuine surprise. I had no idea when I bought this as a non-runner that it was DCC fitted with a replacement motor in it. It saved me an awful lot of expense and an awful lot of work. I just hope now when we take it to the DCC layout that it actually works. Otherwise I'm going to have to change the DCC decoder. I might also change the head codes because both head code panels are showing 2 red markers. So here we are on the DCC layout, and I've programmed it and it's actually running really well. I do need to adjust some of the CVs because this is the slowest speed it will go. This is speed step 1. So it's not exactly a crawler. And when I test the stay alive capacitor, you can see when I lift it off the track, it stops immediately. So the stay alive capacitor isn't working either. But all in all, it's running rather nicely now on a parcels rake around the layout. If you've got anything you'd like repaired or like featured on Trash to Track, please email me at dansmodelrailways@gmail.com. Have a look at getting it sent over, and who knows, it may even feature in an episode all of its own. I may revisit this 73 in the future to add a few more detailing parts and to sort the pickup issue out. As you will see in the running session, it runs okay, but there are a couple of spots on the layout, namely the double slips, where it does stall a little bit because of its short wheelbase and pickup. So you'll see here, just as it approaches the double slip, it's stalled ever so slightly. So I probably will revisit this in the future. Thanks again for watching Trash to Track. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.